This is Answers Partyline today for your Thursday, October the 15th, 2020. Answers Partyline brought to you by Wimmer Opticians, St. Cloud, Atlas Family Chiropractic, Wade Park. My name is Brad Melke. Good morning. We've got 30. Oh, hi, Dennis.
Oh, sorry. I didn't realize you were going into the temperature.
You got really excited there. You want to get speaking here. That's Dennis Fuchs, by the way, and Chris Hogge. I'll give them a proper introduction in just a moment. Sunshine, 32 beautiful degrees, 32 today. High today of 47, eventually 29 tonight, 42 tomorrow, 31 tomorrow night. Scattered snow showers late tomorrow night. Saturday, 49, Sunday, 37, Monday, 38, Tuesday, 40. That's your forecast for the upcoming days, but 32 right now and westerly winds at 10, some sunshine. That golden voice over there, Dennis Fuchs, administrator with the Stearns County Soil and Water Conservation District. Also, Mr. Chris Hogge, District Conservationist, NRCS. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning. I'll just have to say, what a difference a week makes in weather. Wow.
Yeah.
It is too early for this kind of cold. It's just too early. I'm not ready for it.
You got a T-shirt on, Chris.
Yeah.
You got a dress warmer.
Yeah.
Come on.
I'm not ready to accept it yet. I'm gonna fight it off as long as I can. T-shirts. If I could have worn my flip-flops today, I would have just wore flip-flops just in rebellion to the temperature.
That's it. Yeah. So Chris, you want to start things off with?
Chris, you want to say something about some things that are happening in your neck of the woods?
Well, we ended the fiscal year and the end of October, so we're starting a new fiscal year. So we've got some things rolling out, and as many people are already participating in CSP, that's something we got going on. A lot of producers are right now working with CSP.
CSP. You know, some of the listeners are going CSP, CRP, CPP, woo, what's going on with all these
NASA,
acronyms?
NASA.
Let's help these listeners out a little bit.
Okay, this is the NRCS, the Natural Resources Conservation Service, and we are known for our acronyms, so I apologize. It's something that just everybody talks. So CSP is the Conservation Stewardship Program. And as I mentioned before, we have a lot of folks that are in it. So if you are already in the program, we're going to start processing payments here. The 2020 payments should be completed by November 6th.
Can you just give a little more background information on what this program is and when it was established and what are you trying to do?
CSP was established back in 2005, I believe, was when it first started, and I think we're in the third or fourth rendition.
And it was originally known as the Conservation Security Program, and then they modified the name, still CSP, but Conservation Stewardship Program.
Yep, and it is for working lands, which include crop and pasture, and also non-industrial private forest land. So it's basically like your local forest areas. NRCS has prioritized the implementation of it in the 2018 Farm Bill. It's included important changes to the Conservation Stewardship Program, which is designed to help farmers put more robust conservation practices in place. And we work with management practices and also structural practices. The initial updates to CSP increase payments for cover crop adoption, introduce new supplemental payments for advanced grazing management, create one-time payment for the development of a comprehensive conservation plan, and also provide specific support for organic and transitioning to organic activities.
So to EQIP, the Environmental Quality Incentive Program, that helps get conservation practices out on the landscape to meet a minimum threshold of stewardship. And the CSP, the Conservation Stewardship Program, it wants to even enhance that level of stewardship to a higher level.
Yeah, if you want to compare the two programs, EQIP is, how I like to look at it is EQIP allows you or works or assists the producer to implement individual type practices. So you could do an animal waste storage facility or a terrace or a 638.
638.
Which would be a water and sediment control structure, which is kind of like a pond structure or a dam that's usually at the fence line. Kind of helps the back cut of a consistent flow of water. So those are kind of some of the individualized practices you can do with EQIP. We also do a few of the management practices such as nutrient management, pest management,
grazing.
Those are more of a suite of practices. But when you're looking at CSP, the Conservation Stewardship Program, that's more of a whole farm type plan approach. So we're looking at your cropland, pasture, and also your wildlife habitat. So all three of those different land classes could basically be brought into your CSP application, and kind of the more practices that you would add to or want to kind of experiment with over the 5 years of the contract, that kind of boosts your score a little bit, makes it a little bit more it gets a better score. You got a little bit better chance of getting funded. So as far as CSP, kind of how it works, it's just helps you build on your existing conservation effort while strengthening your operation, whether you are looking to improve grazing conditions, increase crop resilience, or develop wildlife habitat. We can basically custom design a CSP plan to help you do that. We can help you identify natural resource problems in your operation and provide technical and financial assistance to solve these problems and attain higher stewardship levels in the environmentally beneficial and cost-effective manner. For example, we can look at ways to address amounts of soil loss, so like erosion, if you have those issues. We can mitigate impacts of excessive water, reduce the contribution of agriculture operations to airborne and soil particles or greenhouse emissions. Some of the benefits that CSP does,
Well, farmers get a payment. That's a benefit.
that is the benefit, and we haven't discussed that yet, but they have the enhanced resilience to the weather and market volatility, so you get that payment to assist with that. The decrease for agricultural inputs, so basically that means better management of what you're putting out there, so better management for your pesticides and your nutrient applications, and it can improve wildlife conditions. So basically you're implementing things like pollinator habitat, or you can do there's some other wildlife practices that you can put on some of your ag associated or your wildlife areas. So as far as payments go, that varies based on which enhancements you were going to kind of put into or add to your operation. So that's kind of a variable that you just kind of have to see what works for your bottom line.
Is there a maximum payment cap per year?
There is, and I believe it's $40,000.
$40,000. Okay.
Chris, you had mentioned, I got to take a break in about a minute, so if you can answer this in the minute time here. You mentioned that score. How's that tabulated? How's that factored in? And how's that determined, I guess?
Well, there is basically questions that we ask the producer, and based on those answers, that's kind of how the scores develop. Basically, if you have a high score or a low score in that. So if you have erosion present on your farm, that could be a lower score, rather than if you're planting cover crops and stuff like that to address the erosion. It's kind of a variable thing, and it's something that based on questions on the responses the producer has. So,
Can it be, and this is maybe not the right terminology, graded on a curve?
not usually. It's usually just graded on what's out there
Sure.
and how it works. This is kind of where we're going to try to start maybe tying in Minnesota Ag Water Quality Certification into that process, because we can better assess the producer's farming operation through that process with more identified questions. So
More from our guests, Dennis Fuchs, Chris Hogge. After the break, we got to go into news. It's KASM Radio. More Answers Partyline on KASM Radio. My name is Brad Melke. We've got Dennis Fuchs here from SWCD. We've got Chris Hogge from NRCS. Chris, we left off with you and talking a little bit about CSP. More on EQIP we need to know, though.
yeah, we got EQIP. That's another program that's kicking off this new fiscal year here. We're going to redo EQIP. That deadline for application sign up is going to be November 20th of this year. So basically, EQIP, as we were talking from CSP is more of a whole farm plan type of a development, and kind of tying in Minnesota Ag Water Quality Certification into it. The other idea we're working with is utilizing the Minnesota Ag Water Quality Certification process to start working with developing high quality plans so we can kind of locate where we have cost assistance available for producers. So once we get the plan in place, or kind of the plan developed for the producer, we can kind of go out and see if there's state cost share available, or federal cost share, or even local cost share available for producers to basically implement whatever practices that they that are identified that need to be added to ensure that they're Minnesota Ag Water Quality certified. So one of those programs that we have is the EQIP program. And basically how it works is this is a voluntary conservation program that helps producers make conservation work for them. Together, NRCS and the producer invest in solutions that conserve natural resources for the future while also improving agricultural operations. Through EQIP, NRCS provides agricultural producers with financial resources and one-on-one help to assist with the plan implementation and of the conservation practices. Using these practices can lead to a cleaner water and air, healthier soil, and better wildlife habitat, all while improving agricultural operations. Some of the practices that we are kind of seeing some benefits from, that people are kind of inquiring about a little more, is cover crops is one of them. Forest stand improvement, we're starting to see a little bit more interest in the forest stand improvement on working lands. Silvo pasture, which is basically grazing cattle under trees, and there's actually some studies being done and some work being done for how to maximize that and efficiently do it without basically killing all your trees from grazing.
Unless they're buckthorn. You like to get rid of them.
Yeah, buckthorn and then Siberian elm are also, but
Yes.
those are more of a goat. Goats like those kind of things. We have some folks out in the Elk River area that are kind of utilizing goats on small acreages to take care of buckthorn and Siberian elm, to see how that works out and as a control option. And then, so we're going to kind of see how that plays out, but it'd be something that a lot of producers, or a number of producers, might look at as a way of managing that invasive species. Some of the other things we have is prescribed grazing, which is also another item or another practice that folks are really starting to gain a little interest in. And then irrigation, water management, and irrigation, which all are practices EQIP can assist with. Some of the incentives that they have, basically we provide a payment rate for the practice, and if you are interested in anything like that, we have a real broad suite of those practices for ranchers and for farmers, for folks that are working with pasture, and there are some that we haven't utilized a lot of forest timber stand stuff here, but there are some things that are available for that. The other thing that we have going on in 2021 is the EQIP funding is going to kind of change in the state of Minnesota. There's been a decision from basically the statewide that they're moving the funding to the team level and the area office, with a few funds in the state office. So we're going to have a little bit more local control of the dollars to see kind of how we can utilize those dollars basically on the team. And so our team here includes Stearns, Foley, Wright, Anoka, Hennepin, and Sherburne. So the dollars we would receive would go directly to those producers in that area.
And I already told Chris we'll take all of Anoka's and Hennepin's and a good chunk of Sherburne's too, to send it over to Stearns County.
Yeah, that's not going to work. But we're gonna try to spread it out evenly, and try to get some of the initiatives, some of the things that the agency and the local work group have identified as resource concerns in the area. And some of those resource concerns, as I'm sure you've heard in the past, is cover crops. and we're starting to get more adoption in the area with cover crops, and you're starting to see a little bit more. So we're continuing that as an opportunity.
Cover crops addresses a resource concern, which could be sediment or nutrient.
Correct. Sediment, nutrient, ephemeral gully erosion, soil health, wind erosion. There's a lot of different things that cover crops can benefit from. Plus, in some situations, if the landowner has animals of some type, that can be fed through the animals, so you can harvest it in the springtime, as a lot of people will do it as silage. So they basically harvest it and feed it through like cattle. That's usually what is being done with it if there's a cattle operation. But some will disc it under. I've even had some folks who are really just going directly in to standing like rye. They'll go directly in, no-till, like the beans, right into the rye, spray the rye off.
Yeah, and I've heard organic producers going out there, putting it in, planting soybeans and standing rye and then crimping it right
Correct.
when the soybeans are coming up to knock it or kill the rye stand.
Correct. You can crimp it at a certain stage, and then it will kill it.
But it's got to be very timely with that stage.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then there are some that are doing the no-till process that are using it for weed control, and there's a lot of interesting research out there. And one of these KASM radio spots, maybe we will have a in-depth discussion of cover crops and the benefits, and see where, maybe answer some questions if listeners want to chime in. But
so Chris, let's pretend I'm a listener and I'm getting all excited about this EQIP and CSP, and our office is closed. How do I get about enrolling or learning more? Or what do I got to do, Chris?
Well, one of the things you can do is you can call the office. And why did you have to do this? Because I don't know the number to the office.
251.
Thank you.
7800 extension 3.
I don't have to do that. You have always done that number every time.
Yeah.
And you had to put me on the spot.
So they call
What's
the office,
the number?
and then what?
Yes.
Do they make an appointment to meet out in the field? Is
Yes.
that
Yes.
what's going to happen?
Yes. Call the number and call the office. We will set up an appointment with you. We'll meet out there, and I guarantee you'll get a phone call within 5 days, and we will be doing some sort of a field visit with you within a month to make sure that we kind of meet with you on site, look at the field that you're interested in, review soil types, that kind of stuff, to see if we can help you put together a high quality plan that you can move forward from. And so, yes, stop in there, or you can send me an email at christopher.hogue@usda.gov.
And I was just going to say, all of the email addresses for all of the staff are on our website.
Correct. And
Just Google Stearns County SWCD NRCS, and it'll pop up.
By the way, if they call that number, are they going to get a live person or a recorded voicemail?
Most of the time, we've got a live person. Might be working remotely out of the office, but we usually have somebody there.
Somebody there to communicate.
If not, we do have voicemail, and we can funnel that throughout the office and forward it to a person that needs to take the call.
Yeah, if you call the office, you will more than likely get a live person, because everybody is basically, we are mostly teleworking, but the phone system is set up in a manner that it goes directly to an individual who will answer the phone when it's there. So
are you almost done then talking about?
hey, you know what? I'm gonna hit a couple others. I'm gonna hit one more thing.
It is very exciting stuff, Chris. I can't wait to call the office at 251-7800 extension 3 to get an appointment set up.
So how many years have you been doing this?
Oh, it's going to be about 25.
I'm figuring the listeners would probably want to hear somebody new, so that's what I'm trying to do, is provide that new voice. And I'm just trying to, get my feel going here.
All right,
and
especially a person from Iowa.
Yeah.
There's a lot of knowledge down south that you brought north.
Well, that's what I'm trying to do. But some of the other things, and I just have one other thing here, and that is, as far as EQIP goes, we have an opportunity to do a high tunnel, which is basically like a greenhouse, and over the last few years, we've started to see kind of more folks that are doing direct market type approach for vegetables and livestock. So they're doing kind of a small grazing operation with like cattle or chickens or goats, and they're basically direct marketing them to the producer or to the individual. So high tunnels, those small grazing operations, those are things that we are willing to assist producers with. So again, if you are interested, please feel free to call the office at Dennis. The number?
251-7800, extension 3. And of course, that's at the 320 area code.
There you go. So, Dennis, it's all yours.
All right. Well, I'm just thinking that there's probably a lot of farmers out there that have done a lot of conservation practices with us already. This past year, over $2.5 million of EQIP has showed up in Stearns County just implementing conservation practices. And we recently partnered with the Nature Conservancy on a project, and the project was titled Increasing Understanding, Interest, and Confidence in Newly Created Scalable Ecosystem Service Markets. And this here project is, let me just give you the project summary. I'm going to not always say Ecosystem Service Marketplace Consortium. I'm going to just refer to that as ESMC. And the Nature Conservancy, TNC, are working to bring together local members and stakeholders to advance ecosystem service markets that incentivize, now listen to this, that incentivize farmers to improve soil health systems that benefit society. So when you look at all of the stuff that Chris was talking about, pasture, grazing management, irrigation water management, cover crops, reduced tillage, all of those things improve soil health. And as those soil health conditions improve, we're seeing less nutrients moving off our farms. We're seeing greater amount of water infiltrating and being stored in the soil profile. And also, as we have continuous living cover on the landscape, we're storing a lot more carbon and increasing organic matter, which reduces the amount of greenhouse gases. So if farmers are doing that, and a lot of these large companies like Cargill and ADM, General Mills, are members of this ESMC, the Ecosystem Service Marketplace Consortium, they all have sustainability goals. They want to reduce the amount of impact from their food supply chain on the planet. So they want to store more carbon, store more water on site in fields instead of causing downstream flooding problems. And they want to see any of the water moving off of fields containing less nutrients and sediment. So they have goals, and this is part of the project, increasing understanding, interest, and confidence in newly created scalable ecosystem service markets. So this is a pilot. It's going to be in Stearns County and the Sauk watershed. And that's where we're going to primarily identify folks. We hope to have 50,000 acres of land participating in the project. And that could be, 20, 30, 40, 50 farmers helping provide that acreage. And as part of this nationwide effort, we're going to try to demonstrate, troubleshoot, and develop efficiencies for defining and selling carbon, water quality, and water quantity credits generated from well-managed ag landscapes with the goal of launching a national ecosystem services marketplace in 2022. So I just mentioned General Mills, ADM, Cargill. They have all participated in this ESMC consortium, and they're working on getting money back to the farmer for providing these sustainability benefits. So this project itself is a $2.5 million project, and with a 1.3 million request from NRCS. NRCS, Chris's agency, is the one that's providing the funding here locally for us to do this pilot project. And it will provide funding for over 3 years to work with farmers and industry stakeholders. So industry stakeholders includes the ag retailer, the food production companies, Cargill, ADM, General Mills, and others. And what we're going to be doing is testing out the ESMC protocols for measuring ecosystem services provided by nutrient management, soil health, and edge-of-field best management practices on approximately 50,000 acres in Minnesota. The strategy for the pilot is to leverage existing cost share and technical assistance funding and suitability tools to enroll farmers to discover cost efficiencies and ensure accuracy of the ESMC platform in the dominant cropping system of our state. So we're in central Minnesota, we're working as corn, soybean, alfalfa, some small grains, some pasture, but we're hoping that we can take this, test it, make sure that it's providing these benefits that the models, they got models that are going to predict how much carbon, how much water quality is going to be stored, or how water quality is going to be improved, and how much water quantity is going to be stored. So these tools are all going to be examined. The farmers that are participating, they'll be running a special application to identify the different soil types. We'll be pulling, I should mention, it would be our crop advisors and our ag retailers will be pulling soil samples. Those soil samples would then be analyzed for carbon and other soil health parameters. And then in 5 years, we do a true-up to make sure that all these soil health practices are providing additional increase in organic matter and these other soil health parameters. And that's where the value, as the farmer is implementing these conservation practices, these companies are going to send some dollars back. And, it might only be $2-3 an acre for carbon, but it might be another $2-3 for water quantity, could be another $2-3. And you start stacking all of these ecosystem services provided by the farmer. We're hoping that we can bring some real value. So if there are some additional costs of putting cover crops or additional risk associated with some of these conservation practices, that the cost will offset any of those, and hopefully over time you'll see additional benefits from all these soil health increases on your farm. So those are just some of the things that we got going on. And we had a big kickoff meeting last week, and Joe Gill here from KASM was there. Thank you very much, Joe and KASM, for coming out. We were out at Tom Gregory's farm, Mill Creek Dairy, just south of Rockville. And we had a great kickoff meeting there. Leif Fixon, he's with the Nature Conservancy, the ag program manager with TNC Minnesota. And he's originally a South Dakota kid, and just an awesome person to be partnering with on this. And then we also had, we invited the NRCS State Conservationist, Chris's boss, Troy Daniel, but he was not able to participate, so we had to have Chris talk a little bit at the field day. And oh my God, I didn't think we'd ever get him off the mic, and finally he just settles down and we can move on to the next person.
Yeah, that's believable.
We also had Minnesota Department of Ag there, these are all partners on this huge project that we got, this pilot right here in Stearns County in the Sauk watershed, and it's just huge. We also had the Department of Ag, the Assistant Commissioner, Whitney Place, and also the Minnesota Ag Water Quality Certification Program Coordinator, Brad Redlin. We had the Board of Water and Soil Resources, John Jaski. He's the executive director. And the Board of Water and Soil Resources is kind of the administrative agency for watershed districts, soil water conservation districts, and they leverage state grants and provide the mechanism to get us to local units of government. We had Centrasota. I mentioned earlier, ag retailers are also a player in this. And Amy Roback-Bruce, a certified crop advisor, represented them. And we also had Steve Peterson, former sustainability director with General Mills, also owns a farm over by Paynesville. And he represented HASP, HASP, the Headwaters of Ag Sustainability Partnership. And we also had Paul Krabenhoff from the Minnesota Association of Soil Water Conservation Districts, Vice President. He drove from Moorhead to be part of this kickoff media event. We also had Paula Moore from The Farmer. I think a lot of people recognize her. The Farmer magazine is fairly popular in central Minnesota and throughout Minnesota. And she's also been involved with our outstanding conservationists when we recognize them at our state convention down at Bloomington, which we will not be having this year, by the way, Brad. Sorry to say that. But anyhow, we had a great day out there and expect to hear a lot more about this program as we start moving. Right now, we'd like to get these soil samples collected yet this fall, and we're still waiting for the appropriate way to collect these soil samples. A lot of farmers are doing tillage. They're applying manure. How does that impact our soil samples, and where should we be taking them? So we're working with ESMC to get the protocol and the sampling process, and we'll be sharing that information with our ag retailers fairly soon.
So, Dennis, I just got a question since you put me on the spot. So I'm just a producer, and I'm just excited, and I really want to be involved in this. And so how am I going to be involved in this? Who do I call? Do I call you? Do I call Brad? Do I call Chris? Who is it that I'm supposed to be calling?
You call Ghostbusters.
Well, I'm not sure they're going to help me with what I need.
Happy Halloween. No, you give our office a call. What's that number, Chris?
I don't know.
251-7800, extension 3, and ask for Mark Lefebvre. And Mark will help you. Or if you just want to say, who do I need to talk to, say Mark Lefebvre.
Final thoughts?
Be safe out there. I just read an article about a guy that was riding a combine, hit a dip in a road, flipped the header off, flew through the combine window, and the combine stopped inches before running him over, and he ended up in the hospital, but he's fine. It's just unbelievable. Everything was just going fine, and 5 seconds later, he's laying there in front of the combine, inches from being driven over from it.
Good gracious.
Well, everybody be safe out there.
Yeah,
It is
that's the most
middle of
important.
harvest. We got a lot of slow-moving traffic, so you'll catch up to it real fast in your car. So be careful out there.
And Chris and I will be back on the radio with you on Tuesday, November 17th, after the elections and after deer hunting opener. So be safe out there and vote.
Dennis Fuchs, SWCD, Chris Hogge, NRCS. Dennis and Chris, thanks for your time again. 10 o'clock, right on the money. We'll be right back. News, information, and more coming up.